Oh my gosh, guys. We are going to do cinnamon roll cake today. Cinnamon roll cake. Oh yeah. All right, let's get this started. So we're going to start off with 3 cups of flour. Be sure not to just like dump it in or it's going to fly all over your kitchen. Next is 4 teaspoons of baking powder, followed by 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Pure imitation, doesn't matter, you're good. And 2 eggs following those up. At this point, we're going to add 1 3/4 cups of milk. You may need a little bit more, but that's just going to be up to you to see the consistency. And then we're going to be fitting our paddle attachment to our mixer so that we can mix this up into just kind of a loose little batter. Now next we're starting off with a cup of sugar, add while mixing. And then we're going to be doing a cup of melted butter. It is important that it's melted, and do it in 2 stages. Let it mix in a little bit, or you can flood the dough and it'll have a really hard time setting up. So make sure that we don't do that today. Next, on a prepared pan, little grease, little spray, anything like that, we're going to pour our batter in. And it's really important when you're doing a cake of any kind, cinnamon roll, chocolate, or vanilla, get it to the edges, make sure that it's on the edges because it'll kind of bake up from where it's at. Now, let's get to the crumble part. We're going to be doing 3/4 cup of softened butter, followed up by a cup of brown sugar. Okay, so get that butter going while we add some brown sugar. Now doing this, we're going to have to scrape a little bit, and that's totally fine. As you're doing it, add 2 tablespoons of flour and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. This part can be really hard and dry your throat out. So here we're just going to scrape for a second. We can avoid this by using a different attachment, but I have found that a whisk attachment is the best to make a really good crumble. Now we've got our cake next to us. The crumble's ready. We're going to pull it out, and a pro move here is going to be to imagine how you want to cut your cake. So the pattern that I use is it's like a 3x4, and I just put each piece at the intersections because I want it in the corners of each cut of cake. And then I mix it into the actual slice of cake that'll be coming out. One of my favorite things about this is that wherever the crumble is at is where it's going to bake in. It doesn't move, it doesn't really integrate into the cake. It just bakes where it's at and takes a little bit of that batter into it. It's just perfect. It works so well. All right, now we're just gonna use the knife to spread out the crumble. Make sure that you've got it where you want it because it's not gonna really bake into the batter. Now let's start with the icing. So we're gonna be doing 2 cups of powdered sugar, followed by just 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Put this in before the milk because you have to be really careful with your liquid. Now we're just adding a couple teaspoons, maybe even a tablespoon at a time of milk. You can make this really thin, really fast. So when you add too much, you kind of need almost another gallon of powdered sugar to make up for it because it just takes in liquid so easy. But by the end, we're going to be somewhere kind of close to 5 tablespoons of milk. Now at this point, we've got a glaze. This is a really thick, sugary glaze that we can put on donuts or anything like that. You can flavor it however you like, but I really want an icing, kind of the medium, like the middle of the road between really thick and really kind of runny almost. Oh man, there we go. That's what we're wanting to kind of get inside that cake. All right, now we're just gonna cut it up kind of how I planned out. Pour that icing on. This is where it all comes together and is the best part, especially if you let it soak a little bit. But make sure that you let it get to those corners. You know, everyone hates a corner piece, but you don't have to with this cake. Everyone can love it. Now you got it. Now you got a perfect cinnamon roll cake. Enjoy.